Welcome back to Trinidad Speak. Well, joining us on set at this time, Martin George, attorney at law, and also we have a former, well, I have to say, a former worker of ArcelorMittal on the telephone. He has had issues. He was injured on the job, and we're going to find out how all of this impacts his future. Ms. George, maybe you can bring this part of the discussion into context. You have a client who was injured.
Yes, he was actually he suffered two work-related injuries at ArcelorMittal. And the interesting thing, Hema, is as we got into the matter in terms of the legal battle, we then discovered through the union that apparently the company has of late had a very bad record in terms of worker injuries and poor health and safety practices, because we recognize that there were several other workers who had similar situations, but who didn't yet take their matter to court. So our client was, in a sense, a standard bearer, in terms of actually going towards litigation in his matter. And the point is, it is still pending before the court. So there's a serious question as to how this announcement on Friday is going to impact on his matter.
And your client work at all?
Well, the thing is, based on the medical reports, in terms of the job he was doing at ArcelorMittal, he was not able to. The doctor had recommended lighter duties, and then, of course, then he suffered a second injury, which then made his situation worse. So it's really something that has to be resolved. There needs to be some finality to it. We made contact with the attorneys for ArcelorMittal on Friday. They expressed surprise at the whole scenario, indicating that, they had certain outstanding obligations, which they would now quickly look to try to get settled. But, the point is that's irrelevant to our issue, because at the end of the day, you have a legal matter in court, and we need to have some determination of the matter and some kind of judgment or liability, and then you look see in terms of collecting thereafter.
Now, the employee that we're speaking about is actually online. Roy, good morning. How are you?
Hi.
Can you give us an idea? Now, we are speaking to your attorney on set. You were injured on the job. Is that correct?
Yes, I was injured on the job.
How long?
Since 2010.
Since 2010. How long have you been suffering? How long, in terms of how has this impacted your everyday life? Okay, Raj, you have to listen on your telephone and not on your television because you're going to get a feedback. Okay, Martin, well, we're going to resolve that.
Just let me clear up a couple of things that I want the public to understand. I've heard said repeatedly that ArcelorMittal is a privately owned company. That's not true. ArcelorMittal is a publicly listed company. It's listed on several stock exchanges, the New York Stock Exchange, the London Stock Exchange, the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So the point is, this is a massive behemoth of a global entity that is publicly traded. Now, there are certain rules and guidelines which must obtain when you are deemed a publicly traded entity. Remember, it's a company that's headquartered in Luxembourg, all right? And it was originally from the Arcelor side, which is a Belgium entity, and then the Mittal side, which is from the Mittal entity. Now, the hostile takeover that occurred, Arcelor tried to resist it first, and then eventually Mittal upped the offer, and they were able to do the merger. Now, two interesting things that we must recognize here. On March 10th, which I think is the actual day that the judgment in the industrial court was delivered, and it's, I am sure, purely coincidental, there was an extraordinary general meeting in Luxembourg of the directors and shareholders of ArcelorMittal, whereby they made certain votes in terms of the rights issues, in terms of the shareholdings.
Just so the viewers, the rights issues concern the majority and minority shareholders.
That's right. Thank you. We have a junior turn and set. Right? So the thing is, and then now, what we have today, 14th March, there is going to be on the New York Stock Exchange the allocation of the rights as per that vote that took place. And as a result of that, there's now a $3 billion offering that is going to be placed at the New York Stock Exchange starting today at 5 p.m. So the thing is, you have to understand, in the global scheme of things, they would have seen the Trinidad operations as disposable, particularly if it is they can leverage off the debt and get rid of that entity, so therefore they move ahead with their dealings internationally. So we must understand that. So therefore, this is not something that a union on its own can fight. This has to be at a government level. The government of Trinidad and Tobago must get involved. You must go back to your agreement. You can see, well, in the initial agreement, did you do what you were supposed to do? When you said you were going to offer shares in the company to local purchasers or local investors or to the employees, did you honor that? Because saying that shares are listed on New York Stock Exchange, that's no bar to you doing so. We have so many locals own companies on New York Stock Exchange.
We have to go straight to the Step Talk News House. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about this now convoluted affair, a web alive, a web of scepter and international conglomerates. They know really how to maneuver the markets. Welcome to Trinidad Big. We're continuing our conversation with Martin George, who's revealing some interesting facts. Nothing's really coincidental in this world anymore. The fact that ArcelorMittal at Luxembourg, they held a number of high-powered meetings looking at issues of rights. And also, there's a $3 billion float now available for purchase on the International Stock Exchange, and that is listed on the stock exchange across the globe. All of this, when you have a conglomerate, they normally look at all their subsidiaries, they look at their cost centers, and they look where not only transfer pricing comes into play, but they also look at the leveraging of the asset, and they look where the losses and profits. I mean, now you're calling for the government to intervene. What I don't understand is if it's a locally incorporated company, then why was it not listed on the local stock exchange? What is it?
I don't know in terms of how they have structured it locally, but just remember it's possible you can incorporate locally and not transfer your assets to the local company.
Okay,
so in other words, the foreign headquarters would still own the assets, but you simply have a corporate structure incorporated locally just for the record to say, well, yes, we are operating in Trinidad and Tobago, but the point is you have no assets there. It's a similar scenario, difference. If you look at the structure, I mean, it's something that's used all the time. You look at something like Caribbean Airlines, I mean, to use a local example, while we have several, entities and branches all over. The point is your headquarters remain in Trinidad and everything in terms of your asset ownership remains here. So similarly, it may be that ArcelorMittal decided to keep the asset side of things international and you simply incorporate locally, you operate locally, but then the point is you are funneling everything back out to your headquarters.
What are the options available to the government at this time? ArcelorMittal has decided, the international shareholders and stakeholders have decided to close shop. Liquidation is on the table at this time.
Yes, well, the thing is, Emma, unfortunately, we are really in a scenario where we're looking at the horse having bolted. So you seek it close stable, but the horse has already bolted. And the difficulty we have is that unless there are elements in the original agreement, which we can go back to and hold them accountable legally, if you do not have that, then government really has little to say in the matter. We must be able to separate, unfortunately, the difficulties that the workers themselves face from the legally binding requirements of the governing agreement in terms of original purchase. While, of course, we must try to find a solution for the workers, the government may not necessarily have a legal basis for intervening on behalf of the workers.
So there's some selling promises of the wind. The talk said they're going to talk to Tal this morning.
Well, the point is, they need to go back and look at how was it structured in the first place? What are your legal obligations? Is it that you are allowed to simply pack up shop and leave, or are there consequences? Were there clauses built into the contract which would give you the option of penalties or anything of the sort? That's what the government has to do at that level. But as I say, this is separate and apart from the industrial relations side of things, which is where you are having workers on the bedline and out of a job and with no proper compensation.
Roger's on the line. Roger, good morning. Sorry about that. I was asking about how has your life changed since the injury? How has the company treated with you? I know that Martin is representing you. Now the possibility of liquidation, ArcelorMittal close the shop. What does this mean for you? How has your life changed and what are you hoping to see come out of this?
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
What I would like to come out of this is justice in terms of respect, because the 6th of July this year will make it 6 years I injured. And I actually had 3 surgeries. During the days at that time, it wasn't easy because having to do 3 surgeries after one, ArcelorMittal management actually tried to rush it to therapy to get ready to come back out of work. They actually treated the injury like an in-house injury. They didn't actually know about it, all sort of thing. So it was really, really frustrating during a long space of time. You understand? And then up to 2012, after my last surgery, right, they actually decided to not pay me at all. No money, no finances. I have a big family, and that was taking a real, real serious toll on my life. You understand? I actually spent pain because there's no therapy or anything like that, right? I done my back in 2013. I went back, I was trying to see if I could make, which I told them man was still in a lot of pain. And on top of that, it gets worse. You understand? They not even a phone call or anything like that. So you're going on so forth.
Well, if you don't receive any money from a company, the fact that liquidation has begun or the possibility of liquidation has started, it means that the creditors will be paid off first from whatever reigns in the company. If you don't get anything at all from ArcelorMittal, what would that mean for you?
To be honest, the answer to this morning is good. Because the union has tried, I myself has tried, everybody's trying, and my lawyer right now is doing the same. And the government's stepping that way good, but at the end of the day, it's still not much good because these people really like they just don't care. You understand? So that's all I can say about that. But I would like everybody, including myself, to get the just payment from ArcelorMittal, go inside that place. It's not no place. It's hard work. And everybody has performed. Don't say that.
Have you been able to secure any other sort of employment, or can you secure any other employment considering your medical situation?
No, actually, you see, to be honest, 3 surgeries no barrels on your right shoulder because of our right hand. That has already restricted me from any sort of activity. Even play with my kids, and it's hard to sleep because when hand for me, I had to wake up. I sleep in the night and I move the hand that wakes me up. That kind of pain that is in the shoulder, much less my back. in trying to sit down low, get not pass or anything like that. So it's just a all-around painful situation with me. So it's not easy to come at no point in time. So
Thank-
that's what we really had, because I would be lacking performance on anybody's job. And if that makes sense, I would be a harder.
Well,
Yes,
thanks so much for taking a call this morning. Share your side of the story. We hear 600 plus workers, but we really don't know the details of the lives affected by the closure. And as we heard this morning, it's 2,500 all, because you look at the auxiliary services and the multi-buy effect.
Yeah, let's just touch briefly on a couple things. We heard the company indicate locally that they were in debt, and this is the reason why they're closing.